Hello, folks. Welcome to the Land Tamer stream tonight. It is Saturday night. We're having a party here. It won't be as interactive as it normally is because, as you can see from the stats, my drop frames were at like 98%. I stopped the stream. I'm just going to do a recording, upload it to YouTube. So, anybody interested in this theme, they can definitely check out the YouTube channel. But we are talking CCIE journey, and we're talking about some things that have to do with career in networking. Some topics that have come up in the Discord channel. Really interesting stuff, and I can share some of my experience. I'm a little long in the tooth when it comes to my IT career compared to some, not compared to others. But I've got some experience under my belt, so there's some things I could share. And I'm happy to mentor or, advise where I can. But anyway, I've got the chat room up here. I think the chat works. So let's see, we can still chat on any stuff. And we, of course, have the Discord. Let me open up Discord in case there are any discussions going on there. But that's where some of this started, and that's the theme of tonight's talk or vlog, really, is about getting that first full-time networking job. And I'm going to relay my own experience and some of the advice I've given to folks about this particular subject. And then written exam planning, just where I'm at studying for the written. I've got 52 days to my next scheduled written exam. And then the wallpaper of the day, I failed to mention this. This is the Parker Solar Probe. It's supposed to launch in a week and head to the sun. Isn't that awesome? It's supposed to get into the atmosphere of the sun. This is a Delta V rocket fairing, 60 some odd feet high, I think is what that is, from Launch Pad 37, I believe, here at, it's going to be in Cape Canaveral here in Florida. So, man, I'm looking forward to that and seeing what science that thing comes up with and what images it takes. Amazing that they're going to fly something that close to the sun. Anyway, getting that first full-time networking job, in the Discord server, it's not just my server. It's used by a lot of different people. Some other streamers are using the server. And there's a lot of discussion about careers and jobs and, of course, certifications is the main thrust. But there's some discussion today about, how do you go from being interested in networking or working, sort of doing some networking at your job, maybe not 100%, to getting that first full-time networking job. When I say full-time networking job, of course, you have to be diverse. You're not just going to be looking at a command prompt, or CLI all day. But what I mean by full-time networking is you are either, have some fancy title like network engineer, systems engineer, and networking team, or, senior network engineer, network architect, the traditional things that we're used to, although those are changing, right? But how do you get into the first job that way? Because obviously you don't start as an expert, right? And I don't know. I mean, I can only tell you my experience in that area, and my career has gone over different trajectories. My career path has changed a few times. I've always been involved in IT, but at one point I wanted to do management. Then I wanted to back away from management, get back to engineering. I've done virtualization. I've done a lot of different things. Windows. I've done some Linux. I've done some digital forensics, security stuff. I've done a lot. I've seen a lot, at least in my opinion. I've seen a lot. But at a certain point, I decided, okay, I really like this networking stuff. And I sort of concluded, and many will disagree, and that's fine. But in terms of support, to me, networking was the most challenging. Like, of all the technologies I was working on or that I was exposed to, networking seemed to be the most challenging. And, kind of, if I wanted to really reach high in terms of my career and knowledge base, I've done a lot of OS administration, I've done desktop administration, I've done some other fields. I've worked with Unix systems, AIX. I'd worked in with hardware, assembling hardware, done some storage. And to me, networking was the most challenging and the coolest, I guess, in my side, site. So at some point, I figured, okay, when I grow up, that's what I want to be. That's where, to me, that's the coolest. That's the most challenging, at least in what I'm exposed to here. This is the hardest, right? Now we're not going to talk about like computer science and microchip architectures and things like that. They're obviously, but in the field of things that I was exposed to, networking, and I really enjoyed networking. That idea of instantaneous communication across the globe, instantaneous being a relative word, and so that fascinated. So at some point I said, okay, that's what I want to do. How do I get there? And I started to try to take some initiative in my job to learn more networking. There was an opportunity, I remember a while ago, where there was a new firewall being installed at a job I was working at. And no one really took a lot of, I guess, initiative. We had a vendor come in, install it, set it up. But then, of course, you need changes. You need new VPN tunnels. You need new configuration changes. Well, I sort of volunteered to take that kind of thing on and work with the vendor or look at the configurations and try to figure it out. And I was really interested in that. So over time, I got more and more responsibilities and different jobs. And at some point, I became a network manager at a job where I was also responsible for other support people. But any of the networking components, that was my responsibility. It wasn't really a full-time networking job the way I think of it, though. I was still doing server stuff. I was still managing people. I was still doing desktop stuff. I was still very much a generalist. But the seed was planted, and at some point I thought, that's really what I want to do. And so eventually I transitioned into a consulting type role. And I got to do more. I got exposed to more networking. I got exposed to some more complex switching environments, some data center switching, some basic routing, nothing, no dynamic routing protocols yet, but certainly some static routing, some voice over IP configurations, dealing with, WAN connections. And so eventually, as time went on, I thought, okay, how do I take the next step? Well, I figured out a long time ago that if you want advanced, you need certifications. So that is something I can encourage everyone to do, even if you don't have a full-time networking job, but that's what you want in the future. You have to, take the initiative for sure. You've heard that me say that phrase multiple times. Obviously, you're in control of your own career. It's in your hands. It's not your employer's responsibility. It's your responsibility, right? So one thing you can definitely do is work on those certifications, because that is what recruiters are looking for those jobs. But anyway, we get to a point where a lot of us are, or lead up to, or you get to a certain point in your career where, okay, you've got maybe your CCNA, or maybe you've even started working on your CCNP. That's where I was. In fact, I had I'd passed the switch first. But I knew that's what I wanted to do, and in my mind I was thinking, okay, do I want to wait and get that CCNP certification first? I'm a number of months away. Do I want to wait for that before I even try to get a networking position? And I decided to go ahead. I decided to go ahead and pursue a job, because I thought, it's going to take me a while and I don't want to wait. And I just want to, dip my toe in the water and let's see, what is the employment market out there at the time? And so I started pursuing it. I started talking to recruiters. I started, freshening up my resume, and I started getting ready for interview questions. But sure enough, I started getting interviews. I was in a hot market, and I don't know what the market is right now. I haven't done any job hunts lately, but pretty much any time in my career that I have wanted to change jobs, the opportunities were there. Granted, there have people study this and they do statistical analysis and there are ups and downs, certainly in the market. Certainly there was a dip like after market crash, 2000s. Certainly there have been dips, but generally I have never had a problem in the United States in somewhat a relatively medium to large city. I've never had a problem finding opportunities. I don't think that's a reflection on me at all. What I'm trying to say is, in the IT world, there's such a need for professionals or people who want to strive to become a professional in a particular discipline that I think that employment opportunities are out there and full-time networking jobs are out there. I remember at one point when I started looking, this was in Nashville, there were I was in the company I was at the time, we had a relationship with, Chamber of Commerce, and there was an IT group joined out of the Chamber of Commerce, and they said at that time, I think there were 1,000 jobs at that time, IT jobs that were currently unfilled and had been unfilled for like over 6 months. There's typically, and I would say that's probably still the case, especially now, when you look at the unemployment rate, even more so, but oftentimes the unemployment rate can be high, regardless. And there's still a lot of IT networking jobs, IT jobs in general, that have been on the books. People have been recruiting for them, and that they have not been able to fill. I would gander that that's still the case. If I were to go out and look at statistics right now, what that means in the topic we're talking about is that at a certain point, you want to go from not doing networking full-time to doing networking full-time in your current job. And anytime you do that, you make that transition, you're actually asking, I think, your future employer to take a bit of a leap of faith, because they have skills that they need, and guaranteed, if you're not doing that kind of work full-time and have never done that kind of work, as you've never been a network engineer full-time, then there's going to be a skill gap. But isn't that why they're trying to fill the job? Think about it. If they had someone to fill that job, and look at some of these job listings, like some of them go on for months, right? Some of them have been listed for more than 30 days. I don't think it'll show you a lot of job sites. It won't show you if it's more than 30 days. Well, it'll show you more than 30, but it won't show you how many more than 30. But I guarantee you that there are a lot of jobs, very few of them probably get filled in the first week or 2 weeks or even 3 or 4, because there's typically a glut, or not a glut, but there's a scarcity in the job market for qualified networking people. So in my process, when I made this transition, I typically went in the interview and I said, look, I know I'm not a network engineer right now. I'm part-time. I'm working on my certifications. I've already passed one exam, and I would like support going forward to continue working on my certifications. This is what I want to do. Feel free to test my knowledge. I'll do the best I can. But yes, I'm lacking some experience, but I'm eager. I want to work. This is what I want to do. I already have a foundation. Please give me a chance, And eventually someone did. And it's funny because if you're persistent, like I interviewed, there were several serious interviews where they love my resume, they love my appearance, but, I dress to the nines, like suit, tie, press shirt, I always try to make, at least do what I can to make a good impression. But I got calls back from several companies that they said, it was close. We were looking for someone with a little more experience, and we had one other candidate that had more experience than you that we hired, but otherwise, you would have definitely been hired. You were a strong candidate, etc. So even after getting those several times, I thought, am I really stretching it here? Am I trying to go too far? Am I overreaching? But, I got a call later on, and it was a company that they had actually interviewed someone else, hired someone else. I had not interviewed there yet, actually. There was a mix-up with my recruiter or something. They had told me about the opportunity, but somehow didn't get me in. I don't know. And I ended up applying actually on my own on their website after seeing a listing. So anyway, I went in, and they had hired someone a while back, and the person had left after like a week or two, which to this day, I still don't understand how people can do that, like just vanish. Okay, if you're in recruiting mode and you accept a job, a position, and someone calls you the next day with the other position that you really wanted, why not at least do the service or be courteous enough to call the other company and say, look, I know I accepted this position. I'm really sorry, but this other job, I've been actually working on that longer. I really wanted that. They called the next day. I don't know why people don't do that. I had hired someone who it was like a network. It was a position a while back. It was a really good candidate. He was overqualified, and he never showed up. I mean, we had his badge, his computer, never showed up. He set up his account, his email, no call, nothing. I don't understand that. But anyway, that's besides the point. This had happened, and so the companies went back to the drawing board. Here I come, and at this point, the job had been unfilled for months until someone came and left after like a week or 2 weeks. So it's funny because they did hire me. There was some discussion about salary due to the fact that I was coming from a pretty well-paying job, and here I was coming into as to a full-time networking job, not being a full-time network engineer. But we got that worked out, and they invited me on board. They allowed me to come in, and now, in my career, later here, several years later, a number of years later in my career, I'm what they call senior network engineer. I know, titles are relative, right? But it's just to say that I was able to successfully make the transition. At some point, a lot of people you talk to are full, in this career, they're doing networking, they're engineers. They weren't always doing that, right? At some point, you need to make the transition. So, you have to risk it. I've been to interviews where I knew that I probably was not qualified for the job, but I attempted it anyway, and I was very clear. That's the thing. I think the big difference is there's nothing wrong with trying to move up and trying to take a risk as long as you're honest with people, Tell them, look, I know that, I'm going to need a lot of help when I get here because I'm not doing that now. I've read about it. I've done some lab. Look, here's my blog. Here's my vlog. Here's my YouTube channel. Look, I'm serious about this, and I'm eager. And I think that really scores a lot of points, and people will take a leap of faith, and it'll pay off, and you'll do well, and you'll become a great engineer in many cases. So that was advice I gave in the Discord earlier, and that's how I think you get that first full-time networking job. At some point, someone's going to have to take a chance on you, and you have to have the drive. You have to have the desire. And, of course, you have to put in the work. And it'll happen. I have no doubt. So, yeah, enough on that. My written plan right now, in other words, I say written plan, it's my plan to pass the CCI written after 2 fails. I am currently in the process. I didn't get a lot done today. I did look at some F5 material that was work-related. Big IQ 6.0 and some of the features that they have related to provisioning, self-service provisioning, which is very cloud-like. That's what, Azure has a load balancer products that they allow application owners to self-provision, and they have, auto scaling, things like that. So F5 is definitely in that market. They do auto scaling now with Big IQ and F5 in AWS, and they do it in, what else they say, on VMware. Soon I'm sure they'll have it in Azure. But yeah, they are working on that, and what the F5 can do, the product, the platform, and other. I think this is true of a lot of traditional networking technologies that we're used to. Everybody's jumping on this, CI/CD, Agile, and giving more power to the application people, and integrating products and networking products more from an application-centric point of view. We see that with Cisco's product, even their LAN switching products, right? So anyway, aside from doing some of that today, some other things today, I am working on. I did spend some time working on some things some notes I took at the written. And I think what I've figured out is I'm going to take the next, it may take me 2 or 3 days. I want to go through all those notes. I've already gotten part way through them, and obviously there's not anything I can share on that here. That is NDA stuff. But later I'm going to start going through network lessons, because what I've identified, there's a number of gaps. But instead of trying to just hit the gaps, I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning. Network lessons are brief, so it's not like I'm going back to the start of the INE workbook or the start of the INE videos on the CCIE course. No, I'm going back to the beginning. There are articles that you read, and they're set up in a CCIE written course format. And I'm going to start going through those and hitting those. The ones that are really obvious and I don't think I have any gaps on, I'm going to skip. But I'm at least going to review each one. And I think that is going to sort of guide me through. That's going to be my plan going forward and guide me through getting through the written, I think. And I think it'll do it. The other thing I really like about Network Lessons is it has a lot of labbing components there. It has packet captures, but you don't have to take the time to do it yourself. Again, you're studying for the written. But he has the configuration files there. You can open them. You can look at them. They're already built. He has packet captures there. There are some videos, too, that show some of the labbing. And that's some of the advice I got after the first fail of the written is don't go down rabbit holes. Don't start labbing everything. Still keep to the blueprint of the written and, the written knowledge. And I think Network Lessons is going to give me a really good, hopefully happy medium in that area. We'll see. We'll see how the pace goes. But I think I'm going to bank my next pass on going through that material, Previous, I gave it to just kind of reading through the blueprint and reading through several of the books, and also doing boson exams and flashcards. Some of the other flashcards that people have out there, which is great. But that's still doing that skipped too much. And I need a little bit more of a rigorous, in-depth coverage of the topics. So we'll do that. We may do some more reading, like chapter by chapter of the certification guide. Whatever it takes is going to take a while. I've got 52 days up there. It may take longer than that. But I'm going to give myself a really good chance, I think, is my goal on the written plan. Man, I'd love to tell you about some Twitch stream enhancements. I got a new emote up for Tier 1 subs. I can't show them to you, really. Twitch has not approved them yet. It usually takes a few days from what I understand. That's some really cool OBS visuals, like I have a stream starting soon thing, so that people can get on the stream a few minutes before. I can test it. I can check my performance a few minutes before. Like I checked in 10 minutes early today, and I started the new. Actually, you can see. I think I'm going to put this on Instagram later. Yeah, so this is it. But yeah, a couple of things for the subs. People give support, which I always appreciate. Puzzler answer. The last puzzler I had was, which of these configuration management tools is written in Ruby? Which in Python? Which can operate agentless? So I don't think I have this in the drill sheet, but I'll just tell you. Basically, Puppet and Chef are written in Ruby. and Ansible and Salt are written in Python. And you'll tend to see that Puppet and Chef are generally preferred by programmers, and Ansible and Salt are preferred by network administrators. Tends to be sort of the pattern. Ansible and Salt can operate agentless. You can use Salt Stack with minion agent software. You don't have to, though. A lot of it can be done with SSH. Typically, that's the agentless, Ansible configuration management. It initiates an SSH session. You provide credentials, and then it runs. So no agent is required on the gear. Yeah, so those are some of the differences between those. Obviously, you hear a lot of networking people talk about Ansible or Salt. You even see that in our Discord and the Agile Automation channel. We talk about these a lot. Obviously, no one can, unless you watch this on YouTube. I mean, I'll probably post this in the Discord. Tomorrow's puzzler, though, we'll plan to stream around noon tomorrow. When LACP is selecting ports for a port bundle or port channel, what criteria is used first? And I'm going to say that there are 4 criteria I'm looking for. That, let's say we have configured 10 ports to be eligible to be in the port channel, but we only want to use a maximum of 4. All right? What is the selection criteria? Can you name them in your head? We'll go over that tomorrow. And then I have one meat chunk is I'll have really the Cisco acquisition news. This is interesting. This is about a security company, security software, Duo. And I don't know much about them, but I do find it interesting. I always find it interesting to see, you kind of get a little bit of a look into what Cisco might be thinking, maybe where they're going to invest money because of what they think, the direction of the industry, where it might be going. We'll see. I always look forward to Packet Pushers has good analysis on these acquisitions. I haven't seen an article yet, but I'm sure they'll be coming out with one, and I'll post it here of what their summary analysis of that is. And that's all I have, folks. Thank you so much. Anyone who's watching this on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. I appreciate all the support I've had and comments and community feedback on the YouTube channel. Also, catch us live on Twitch. We tend to be on Twitch. I tend to be on Twitch between 7 p.m. every Monday through Thursday evenings, and with variation on the week on Saturday and typically on noon Sunday. So tomorrow, if my upload speed is better, I don't know what's going on, guys. I had great upload speed up until about the time I started this stream, and I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully, we'll be back tomorrow. My upload speed was like 0.04 megabits per second. It's horrible, but hopefully, it'll be better tomorrow. Spectrum, gotta love it. Thanks so much, though, folks, for stopping by the Lantern stream and checking us out, or the YouTube channel. And I've been enjoying. I'm gonna rest my evening. I'm gonna enjoy this Modelo Chelada, which is has chili flavor. It's really good. We'll be relaxing, and tomorrow we'll be back at it, getting ready for that Cisco written exam. Thanks so much for your support, folks. Appreciate you stopping by, and check us out on the Discord channel if you want to get involved in conversation and with other people studying for their certs. And we'll see you back here tomorrow at noon on the Land Tamer stream.